Alright folks, we've returned. It's time to start Case 4 of Mysteries of the Past, thanks to A, Vivian, and Bruna. Glad I'm able to get in this. A Murder Carol. Makes sense on, since Christmas is on the way. Matthew, we're living in troubled times. It transpired that the fire in Concordia was started by a police officer. Worse yet, the young officer started the fire in an attempt to destroy evidence. A disquieting development indeed, and Cole refuses to reveal who made him light that fire. But chin up, Bontemps. We shall turn our minds to a more cheerful business, decorating our airship for Christmas. Christmas? Bah! I take a dim view of such childish distractions. Matthew, care to join me for a walk on a walk before Madeline enlists our help with the festivities? Matthew, I confess that Christmas festivities do not make my spirits soar with enthusiasm. It is not that I am a joyless fellow, but... Thunderation! That blasted wind blew my hat away! I saw it fly towards that alleyway over there. It shan't take long to capture it, Matthew. Oh no. Brass knuckle duster. Victim's body. There we go. I found my hat, Matthew. I shall not permit the treacherous wind to... But my word, you're right. That man appears deceased. I took him for a drunk, slumped as he is over that barrel, but there is a wound on his skull. His life was taken by violence. And wait, I recognize this fellow. He's Rowdy Rick, a known miscreant, habitually disturbing the peace in New Haven. I've apprehended him many a time. You reckon a fight with some other hoodlum led to Rowdy Rick's demise? That knuckle duster suggests you are right. Revealing what's carved in the middle shall be instructive. And that blood-stained note may be something the killer lost, fleeing the scene. Young Charlie's machine should help decipher those symbols. Matthew, I do not wish for this somber turn of events to halt our Christmas preparations, but work shall come before the festivities. Get the results tomorrow morning. Hold on, I'm going to get some stars. Alright, got myself 7 stars. Let's examine the scribbles. Oh man, now everything's jumbled up. Come on, man. There we go. Matthew, the scribblings on that blood-stained note are numbers. Miss Holloway will know their meaning. still can't share coins. My goodness. Brass knuckle duster. Vinny Costa. Matthew, I recognize the name mentioned to that knuckle duster. Vinny Costa is another habitual troublemaker. An Italian giving a bad name to his fellow countrymen. Vinny must be drinking in the tavern at this hour. I propose he ask what he knows about Rowdy Rick's demise. About his knuckle duster. Porco Diavolo, not the police with their flying cigar. What is it you want? I'm just an honest man enjoying a drink after a hard day's labor. Vinny, you've not done a day's labor in your life, except robbing old ladies and beating up beggars. We found your knuckle duster near Rowdy Rick's body. What have you got to say for yourself? Rowdy Rick's dead? Mamma mia! Rick was like a little brother to me. Brothers have been known to quarrel, Vinny. Did you have a fight with Rick? It wasn't a fight. I was teaching Rick to defend himself, Marshal Matthew. It's a tough life out on the streets. I did him a favor by taking him under my wing. Or so you say. Well, how about you do us a favor? We should like to inspect Rick's quarters. Do you know where he lived? Certo, in the old boarding house on Rookery Lane. Marshal Matthew shall inspect the premises. I trust you'll abstain from fighting tonight, Vinny. Why not? Let's try. Go for star number 1 already. Tray with crumbs. Hats. Sack. Antlers portrait. 5 seconds. Great. Nice, an OJ. Matthew, I do wonder where Rowdy Rick found the money to pay for his lodgings. Perchance that canvas sack holds the answer. We ought to inspect its contents. The crumbs on that tray might have been the victim's last meal. I shan't argue with your plan. Gather a sample. I did get the first star immediately. Merry Christmas, Rich, on the plate. Matthew, cleaning that tray revealed a message. Merry Christmas, Rick. Tip-top thinking, Matthew. Examining those crumbs under the microscope might lead us to the victim's well-wisher. gingerbread biscuit. The crumbs on the tray in Rick's quarters are manifestly the remains of gingerbread. We know someone gave them to Rick for Christmas, but we don't know who. Except, Matthew, I know a young woman who sells gingerbread biscuits on the street. I bought some just yesterday. She might be of assistance. I know, I spoke dismissively of Christmas when Madeline mentioned it, but I have no objections to gingerbread. Well, I propose we find this cookie seller without further ado and ask her who bought gingerbread for the victim. Mr. Bontemps, you're back, and you've brought a friend. Would you like more gingerbread or a muffin? Delicacies are for another time, child. Pray tell, who else bought gingerbread from you today? That will be Maggie Scrubber. She bought a full tray of gingerbread for her lodger. I bet she ain't in trouble. Leave it to us, child. Now take the shilling and hurry home. Marshal Matthew and I shall pay Mrs. Scrubber a visit. About the victim? Good evening, Mrs. Scrubber. We're here to... The police? Heavens, don't tell me there's another fire! Nothing of the sort, Mrs. Scrubber. We are here to ask about Rowdy Rick. I know Rick. I rent this room to him. What about it? A sordid affair, I'm afraid. We found him murdered in an alleyway. Rick? Murdered? May the devil choke the villain that did it. How am I to find a new tenant now? One that ain't a prostitute with head lice, or worse yet, Irish. I see. You prefer to rent your room to hoodlums that drink and fight. So long as they do it elsewhere, I don't give a diddly. Now if you're done, I should like to sleep. She did it. Mr. Bleak. Matthew, those pretty trinkets in the sack cannot belong to a brute like Rowdy Rick, but I see it as that business card that took your fancy. The card says Mr. Bleak, moneylender and pawnbroker. Alas, this must be who the sack's contents belong to. The poor pawned their valuables to borrow money from Mr. Bleak, and he charges them interest that'll keep them poor for life. But I digress. We must ascertain how our victim got a hold of Mr. Bleak's possessions. Do you wish to pawn that golden monocle, sir? I'm about to close the shop, but I'll give you 4 shillings at 20% interest. How audacious. We are not here to pawn our possessions. We are investigating Rowdy Rick's murder. What was your association with the fellow? Rowdy Rick murdered? Blood and thunder! He worked for me. You see, customers eager to borrow money from me are often stubbornly reluctant to pay it back. I employed Rick to give such customers a little incentive. You mean you exploit the misfortunes of the poor, and you employ a thug to beat them up when they can't pay? They know the rules when they come to me, Marshal Matthew. And then they weep that the roof needs mending, that their clothes are threadbare, that their children go hungry at Christmas, as if that is... Sorry guys, tablet ran out of room. And now I lose my employee at the busiest time of the year, but no one has any sympathy for me. I'll see you guys when these two are done. For now, this is Matthew. See you then. Alright folks, we've returned. Let's get the results of the autopsy. Matthew, I'm delighted to see you. I was about to conduct a little self-experiment. I postulate that alcohol remains in the bloodstream for hours after it is consumed. I estimate this fellow had 17 glasses, but an experiment under laboratory conditions is necessary for... Before you gulp down that wine in the name of science, Richard, could you perchance elaborate on this fellow's fate? Very well. The wound Matthew noticed on the victim's skull shows he was killed by a blow to the head, administered with a heavy object. A drunken brawl is a predictable end for someone named Rowdy Rick. Has the culprit left any clues on the body, Richard? Anatomically speaking, nothing besides 2 broken ribs, but there was this piece of paper in the victim's clenched fist, which you might find informative. The paper appears to be the torn corner of a lottery ticket. The victim evidently did not wish to part with it. Most interesting. Matthew, you reckon the killer and the victim tore this lottery ticket apart in the brawl? If the killer and the victim fought over this ticket, both of them must have had a stake in the lottery. We're looking for someone who plays. But with you on the case, Matthew, the killer's luck has already run out. Matthew, where have I put my book? I was going to show you. Ah, here, the laws and principles of whist stated and explained, and its practice illustrated on an original system by means of hands played completely through.
Simply delicious dump cakes, cherry pineapple. 6.
I'm afraid I didn't follow that. The title is a little long-winded, but this book explains the meaning of these numbers you sent me, Matthew. This card is a whist marker. Whist is a simple but ingenious game of cards, Matthew. My great-aunt Agatha was very fond of it. Whist is also popular with the swindlers of New Haven. Foolish young men lose their wages to sharp dealers every night in secret gambling dens. And this scorecard was found sprinkled with blood next to Rowdy Rick's body. I bet my bottom shilling you are right, Matthew, and the killer played whist with the victim just before murdering him. And now we have a trump card against them. Matthew, the law-abiding citizens of Concordia are asleep in bed, dreaming of Christmas. But Rowdy Rick never got home tonight. He seems to have been murdered in a back-alley brawl. Now we shall find his killer. My money is on Vinny Costa. He professed to be Rick's friend, but friendships among his kind quickly turned to strife. The victim's employer, Mr. Bleak, is a heartless Scrooge, but he held no grudge against Rick. Nor did his landlady, who... Wait, Matthew, did you hear that noise? There it is again. It seems to be originating from the fireplace. Let's see... What? Matthew, what happened? Uh-oh. That doesn't sound good. I'll see you guys for chapter 2.